Hello, welcome to Spotlight, a smiley sun of artistic goodness.
Spotlight, brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
This evening, we have the second part of our Guild 24 preview with Anne Clark. Hear how the polymath filmmaker, producer, musician who is Dave Armstrong is highlighting yet another string to his bow, author, with the release of his first book. Then we speak to Laura McCoy and Joe Oberty about the Wild Mann Nature Photography exhibition at the Manx Museum. Remember, do get in touch with any creative artistic endeavours you may be involved in, planning, hoping to create, or would really like to put in the spotlight. That's this programme. Poetic, theatrical, musical, literary, ceramic, drag, film, mime, social media, all the others. Spotlight at manxradio.com, Howard Kane at manxradio.com. They both come to me. Love to hear from you. If you don't get in touch, we can't do something. So do it. Now, there can't be many listeners to this programme or podcast available straight after the show via the Manx Radio website or via your favourite podcast provider, if you didn't already know, who haven't heard of Dave Armstrong, of DAM award-winning filmmaker, musician, producer, and a man who must have recorded almost every musician on the island at some stage or other, plus lots of others off the island in his 40-year career. Perhaps less well known is that he has been a writer for many years as well. Perhaps not so well known because his work hasn't been readily available hitherto. That is all about to change as he releases his first book, a psychological thriller called The Clearing, for which there's already been a rather splendid 30-second video teaser on social media featuring a couple of well-known faces, both in Lisa's case. Dave dropped by to tell me more.
I've been thinking back as to when I sort of started writing, and I guess, a long time since I was at school, but badly. Not necessarily badly. I think the key factor, the key difference is actually finishing a project. And I think that with writing especially, we've all got a book in us. Or didn't someone say that once?
That's what they always say. And
yeah.
I was going to say that. Did you always think you had a book in
you?
Yeah.
But ideas are 10 a penny. That's a bit mean for anyone in new money. But ideas are sort of easy to achieve. You can think of 1,000 ideas, but it's actually putting into practice, putting in the hard work, and actually just keep going, working through it, and don't give up. And I eventually, after quite a few writing projects with short films, I did quite a few scripts for short films, but I found I really enjoyed writing prose. And during I think probably during lockdown, I think I really put my back into it a little bit more. Spent a bit more time on it. My partner Isabella kicked me up the derriere a few times and said, "You've got to finish this." So interestingly, though, this is actually my second book.
Okay.
Because I didn't finish my first one, which is still...
That's still languishing on a shelf, is it?
It's not languishing. No, it's in sort of a holding pattern until I get the last few chapters worked out in my mind. But I'd written this project for The Clearing as a screenplay, a 3-part TV series, and my other project was a script originally. And I decided, well, what's the chance of success in this industry and how can I double it? So I thought, well, if I write a novel and the screenplay, it gives me 2 bangs for my book. And also I really enjoyed the process. I think it helped me flesh out characters and story that you can't do within a script. Script's very tight, and you've read enough scripts to know that there's very little direction. Most of it is dialogue, and sometimes very sparse dialogue. Whereas in a novel, you can explore the inner voice, whatever you want to call it, and get to know the characters a lot more. But through working through film and having the project as a screenplay first, I decided to shoot a teaser for both the screenplay and as a promo for the novel. So it also gave me an opportunity to get some of my friends and acting colleagues on the Isle of Man and force them to do things that they wouldn't normally do, such as lie on the ground for a couple of hours in Arch Alligan.
As you do.
Well, yeah, I used to walk a lot in Arch Alligan, and I just loved Arch Alligan. I thought this would be such a great place to shoot a movie. You know, that lush green, that sort of soft mossiness, and the fact that you can walk a few meters into a few yards into that forest, and it's like you're in the middle of nowhere. And so that inspired us. So if it was going to be set anywhere, that's where I'd like it to be set. Writing is a sort of lonely-ish process. You got to sit there, and there's a screen or a piece of paper, and it's just you and the piece of paper. But to be able to work collaboratively again is what I enjoy doing, both with music, with film, and with writing now. Because, you know, with the teasers and the audiobook, of course, you can't just do that all on your own.
Definitely not. It's listed as a psychological thriller, I think. Is this a genre which you personally enjoy reading yourself, or something that you felt drawn to?
No, well, when I was a child, I devoured books. I read a lot of sort of, I would say, adventure thriller books, and back in those days it was Alistair MacLean, Wilbur Smith. But then when I was at school, I became a lot more pretentious. Kafka, John Fowles, you know, and so had a really eclectic taste in reading. But I did always like the sort of thriller, you know, intrigue, and more recently, sort of the psychological thriller aspect. But it's a big market, the psychological thriller. I like messing with people's minds, and this does to a degree, but it's a little bit. Hopefully, it's a bit deeper than that. It's sort of a stalker tale with a twist.
And was it something that, again, you sort of hinted at with the other one, which is still not seen the light of day yet? Do you have, or with the clearing, did you have the whole plot line from beginning to end clear in your head when you started, and then it was basically filling in the gaps of how to get from A to B, or did it develop, as it were, as it went along?
Oh yeah, I had the whole thing planned out from beginning. No. I mean that's the problem with, I suppose, the way my mind works. Where really I should have the whole plot worked out, but of course, as I work through it, things happen. And I always remember reading the French and Tennis Woman, John Fowles. And within that book, he talked about the process of the characters taking on a life of their own and convincing the reader that no, he no longer has control over these characters. They have an existence of their own outside of the writer's control. And I suppose in a way that happened to me, where the story sort of took on a life of its own and a sort of direction that I didn't think it would take. And hopefully from a very simple premise of someone waking up in the forest and thinking that there's a stalker carried them out in the middle of nowhere, it turns into something a lot deeper, existential questions. There's all sorts of things that came out of it that I didn't think when I started it. And it was a journey for me, and hopefully for the readers it'll be an equally interesting journey.
Getting it out there, which is the other thing, because it's one thing getting the words down, as you say. I suppose it helps that you've been in the creative industries, like you say, for 30, 40 years, and so having contacts, but getting actually sort of, you know, the publishing process, getting it out there so people can actually read it. Obviously there's online, there's Amazon, there's local publishers. Did you sort of know which route you were going to go?
Well, yeah, I obviously looked at the traditional publishing route, but fortunately my partner, marketing expertise is what she has, and online social media, which I do not have. But as I say, my partner Isabella, we discussed it and realised that with the assets that we have in terms of some video, and the fact that I've got someone willing to do the social media side of it, whereas I'm like that horse being dragged to water. You know, I occasionally dabble, but I just don't like to drink the social media stuff too much. But she's great, just being able to know how to get it out, the Facebook, the Instagram, and all the rest of it, and helping to shape that, because that's what drives this sort of market. And with traditional publishing, I really thought about it, but I thought, you know what, I could send it off to 50 publishers. I did send it to a few, but most of them I haven't had a reply from. You could wait 18 months to go through agent, then a publisher, then they could say, well, we'll schedule it for the middle of next year. And I thought, I need to have control of this to a degree and know that the effort I'm putting in is getting some success or failure. And I think by doing it this way and taking control, I'd like to just get on with the next book and finish that off, which is very nearly finished. Understanding the process now of how this all works has been a fascinating journey as well. Hard work, harder work than writing.
I think that's often the case, isn't it? And speaking of which, then, there is a launch down at Waterstones, 18th of April, where presumably people can come and see the author himself.
Yes, but more importantly, because you don't want to see me. I mean, I just couldn't visualize myself just sitting there and going, chapter 1. So I've been fortunate enough to work with, as I say, some fine actors, and Lisa Kreisky and Jeff Pugh, two very fine actors who appeared in my trailer and my teaser for the project, will be joining me and performing live, along with some as yet unseen video clips from the teaser. So it'll be fun and hopefully interactive.
And we should say, of course, very popular as ever, audiobooks. There is an audiobook version of it.
Roy Macmillan, once of this parish, is a very, very talented audiobook producer now. And his lovely wife is a fantastic actor and audiobook reader. And so I said, Roy, please, I need someone talented to be able to produce my audiobook. And do you know of anybody? But no, it was great working with him again. We had such fun. And she's done a fantastic job. Because don't forget, you've not got to only do the sort of normal narration, but you've got to read the book, but you've got to put in slightly different character voices. But it's fantastic work. Just great again to have that collaborative process back in play.
And Roy's lovely actor wife is called Rachel, of course. I haven't had a chance to read the book yet, but it's already had great reviews online, and like everything Dave does, you know he will have poured his heart into it. The launch event, Waterstones tomorrow evening, the 18th, featuring Lisa Kreisky and Jeff Pugh. Dave will be there himself, of course, and cake. So I'm told. It all kicks off at 6 p.m. Check it out. And of course, if you're going to buy a copy, and I hope you are, support your local bookseller.
Spotlight. Brought to you by the Isle of Man Arts Council.
It's almost here, Guild Week 2024. We heard from Guild Chair Anne Clark last week about some changes to the Cleveland Medal event, which are being trialled this year. Never an easy thing to do with such a high-profile and popular event. This week, Anne tells us more about other notable happenings and changes this year, not least the fact that it's the 50th anniversary of the Sheffield Plate.
Yes, that's right. The Sheffield Plate was presented by Dr. David Clover, who was an adjudicator from Sheffield, who was so impressed with the high standard of young people singing in the competition that he presented a salver of stainless steel from Sheffield, and it's been won every year. Some of the young competitors have done extremely well, and some of them are still competing in the Guild, although in the more senior classes now. The winner gets the Sheffield Plate for a year, but this year we're introducing a Sheffield Medal, which the winner will receive, and then future winners will get their own medal and they can keep that forever. The medal is very nice. It's been designed by Jenny Kizik. It's a beautiful little yellow and green medal, and details of which you can see in the programme.
Which is a nice touch. It has to be said of something that people have been winners. They've got something there keep there forever, which is lovely.
Yeah.
And I just see you were saying the programme was there. As we were talking, I have this year's programme in my hand. They look fantastic, I must admit. I know we spoke last year and that they've been sort of modernised and brought in. There's more colour, there's more content. They're beautifully colour-coded so you can see the different classes. I think that's been beautifully done, made a big difference.
We tried to make it more of a magazine type thing, and there are interesting little bits and interviews with various people, winners and accompanists and parents, and tributes to past members of the Guild, some of whom have passed on now. For instance, Nigel Crowe, who was a great supporter of the Guild, a great competitor in the Guild.
But I think the great thing to say as well, it does look warm. It's beautifully produced, lovely full colour pictures inside, so it's very easy in the eye, plenty to read. But it retains that feeling of the programme of old.
A week or two after the Guild is over, we have a review of what we could do better or what went well, and we work from there. But things have to be booked, adjudicators have to be booked, the Villa Marina has to be booked, all sorts of things like that. Any new classes that we want to introduce, any old classes that we want to take out. It's a great deal of work, and it goes on all year. The syllabus has to be ready for October.
Of course, yes.
And then the entries come in the following February, and no late entries are accepted.
Quite right.
And then that's it. It will be all set for the 133rd.
Which brings us nicely onto the classes. As you say, there's a huge number of classes. And these do vary over the years. You know, sometimes classes which have been incredibly popular sort of dwindle in popularity, and I assume the other way around. Some classes maybe start off not that popular and get more popular as they go along. Any notable additions or subtractions this year we should think about?
Well, the big thing is musical theatre. Over the last few years, that's grown tremendously. Songs from the shows, I suppose you could call it. Last year, we introduced a junior class for sort of youngish teenagers, and that has proved tremendously successful. There are 61 entries this year.
Brilliant.
So that's a great thing, and they are all... I would not like to be the adjudicator for that class, because they are all absolutely marvellous.
And what about the dance classes? Are they still well represented?
Yes, the dance schools represent our biggest entries. They take place on Sunday. That's the ballet and tap and that sort of dancing. The folk dancing is on Saturday, and that is another thing which has come on. The folk dancing is stupendous. It really is. And the costumes, absolutely marvellous. And then all day Sunday, we've got ballerinas, tap dancers, show dancers, gymnastic dancers. It's just marvellous. And then on Sunday evening, to round the day off, we've got the brass band competitions.
Oh, that's always popular too.
Very popular, yes.
And the choirs, because the Island's always had a long choral tradition, still going strong?
Yes, very big, yes. We've got some new choirs, this community choir, which brings in all ages, and the usual adult choirs, which are of such a high standard. That's the second Saturday in the afternoons. The choral tradition on the island, as you know, goes way back, and the standard of singing, conducting, choosing the works is wonderful.
Things like the new classes which were brought in, are they still going strong? So we had things like, I'm thinking, stand-up comedy, drag, news reading have come in. Have they fared well? Have they sort of not done quite as well as... I know it's experiment, isn't it? You never quite know.
Well, we are always being asked to bring in new things, and we do try and accommodate anything where it's possible. The news reading is doing fairly well. It's ticking along. The juniors are more inclined to enter than the seniors, but it's happening. The drag class is a terrible disappointment. We had great high hopes for that, and it hasn't happened. There's only one entrant this year, and good for that person, because they will be there and it'll be great entertainment and very nice, but we had hoped for a lot more. Stand-up comedy has not taken off. At first it was marvellous, and now it's dwindled. There's only one entrance this year, and yes, it's such a pity. But we've tried them.
And yes, you just don't know until you try them. That's the bottom line, I think, isn't it? You don't know how they'll fare. A lot
of the classes depend on the teacher. If you've got a teacher, say you have a very good harp teacher, you'll have big classes with a lot of harps in, and that teacher may move on, and then another instrument will take over. But it's ups and downs. We let the classes go for a few years, and then if they're not doing well, we'll either merge them into another class or drop them completely.
Is Manx still popular, the various Manx classes?
Yes, they are very, very good, and it's lovely to see that. There was the T. Brown class. We've extended that to Manx authors, which gives a much bigger range. And yes, the Manx classes do well. A lot of young people in that as well, which is nice.
A Sheffield medal, great idea. And hats off to the organisers for trying to make these changes to such an established event, trying to keep it relevant for the next generation, and the brilliant work updating the programme, which is on sale now. Get a copy, support the Guild. Best of Manx to all this year's competitors. Finally this week, the wonderful Manx Wildlife Week is rapidly approaching on the rails. Running within the event is the Wild Mann Nature Photography exhibition at the Manx Museum. This follows on from the photography competition earlier in the year and sees over 50 of the best images selected by the judges on display. Curator of Natural History at MNH, Laura McCoy, and Project Officer for UNESCO Biosphere IOM, Joe Overty, told me more.
We ran a nature photography competition last year, and because Manx National Heritage brought over the Wildlife Photographer of the Year from the Natural History Museum last year, and that was super popular, and we got so much good feedback from that. And so we thought, well, we'd love, because the Isle of Man do have the opportunity to very quickly get out into some fantastic landscapes and capture some beautiful wildlife that a lot of people perhaps don't realise is a privilege. So living across, there was, I'd only ever managed to see a raven in the small isles of Scotland and in the Tower of London. I'd never seen a chough other than in the mountains of Montenegro. I don't think I'd ever seen a peregrine, or possibly like a very small dot very far away. And just the fact that we get to see these things very regularly is just absolutely incredible. And I don't know about you, but I see lots of people coming up in my feed of like Manx birds from my garden, or Manx photography groups, and I always see the most fantastic photos. I mean, just breathtaking. I was thinking, well, there's so much talent on the island. Let's ask them to submit some natural history photography to us, and let's see what we can get. So we ran the competition over quite a long period of time, about 6 months, because we wanted to give people a chance to capture certain things, and obviously some things might be migratory or seasonal, and we weren't disappointed. We got over 200 images submitted, and there's going to be just over 50 in the exhibition, and so that's going to be running from the 26th of April to the 27th of April, to the 23rd of June. And I hope that as many people as possible come to have a look, because the thing is that most of us have access to a camera in our pockets, our phones, and there have been some images submitted to us that have been taken on phones and are still absolutely incredible. But there's also some people that you can tell have developed their craft over years and have just an incredible talent, and some of them are absolutely incredible. I particularly love all the macro photography, because the detail and just the world that they show you, being able to zoom in such an incredible way, they're just super interesting and fab.
Also complementing Manx Wildlife Week, we are launching our Young Nature Champion competition on Monday. Previously Young Nature Writer, it's run for a few years, but we've expanded it out this year. So as well as accepting written entries, we're also going to be encouraging video and audio entries, and that's open to anyone aged 21 and under. And we work with Manx Wildlife Trust, Manx Ornithological Society, and this year Love Tech for the first time. Again, encouraging young people to go out, connect up with nature and tell us how it makes them feel, or, what their favourite creature is, or their favourite place to go to see nature. So we hope that Manx Wildlife Week will encourage people to take an interest in the competition. It runs right until autumn half term, so young people have got a long time to get involved.
Once the exhibition is opened, people can order prints and cards of the images from the partners of the event, magnoliabox.com. All proceeds go to the Biodiversity Fund. That's about it for this week. Don't forget, if you want to hear anything again, go to manxradio.com, download the Spotlight podcast, listen where and when you want. Why not try it whilst out in nature with your camera for next year? With your headphones on, of course. See you next week. Until then, look after yourselves. Whatever you're doing, be creative about it. Cheerio.